The Art of Being Ruled. Wyndham Lewis. Original publication 1926. 1989 edition. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 11. Proudhon and Rousseau. Chapter 7. The Federative Peasant-Socialism of Proudhon. The Federative Commune, then, was Proudhon's way out of his characteristic difficulty, which is also to some extent the difficulty of every freeborn, white, European man. And, as we have seen, as regards his own country he contemplated cutting it up into 36 small sovereign states of 1 million inhabitants each. Speaking of his Federative Commune, he says, "The commune is in its essence, like man, like the family, like every individual thing or intelligent collectivity, moral and free, a sovereign being. By reason of that the commune has the right to govern itself, to proceed to its own administration, to decide what taxes it shall have, to appoint teachers to them, to arrange for its own police, to have its gendarmerie and its civic guard, to appoint its own judges, to have its newspapers, its assemblies, its associations, its customs, its bank, etc. What would prevent it from going as far as making its own laws? La capacité politique des classes ouvrières." It will be seen that the autonomy of his federative commune would be absolute. Among those million souls, composing the small sovereign states, of which France would possess, according to his arrangement, 36, those fortunate enough to get themselves into a position of control would have very great power. Or public opinion, if things worked out as Proudhon hoped, would be a very powerful and concentrated thing indeed. The Greek or Roman city-state was of course what he was aiming at. But the difference would be that there would be no slave labor, no fundamental class distinction. The very great difference that this introduces into the structure of such a small state really makes all such classical parallels as those indulged in by Proudhon futile. I suggest that the fallacy in this scheme of Proudhon's is indeed the one on which Marx put his finger, that it is a world for peasants only. Industry is the obstacle that Proudhon never faced, all his thoughts were agricultural. On the score of freedom his mistake was much of a kind with Rousseau's on that head. Rousseau dreamt of a free, natural, savage state. Proudhon talks as though a small landowning peasant or artisan, in a village or small town, is freer than an individual worker. But the conditions of village life, like those of the family, though it is true people are not, as Rousseau would dramatically put it, in chains, are the opposite of free. In a village ruled by public opinion or by gossip, which is the expression of public opinion, you get a complete natural socialization, far superior to any socialization of the factory. But there is little freedom of action or opinion, both are curtailed and held down by public opinion, more effectively than any police force could do it. Freedom only exists in the heart of the anonymous crowd. Probably there has never been so much personal freedom as there is today where it does exist, for it cannot exist everywhere, and the habits of the village are reproduced throughout urban life wherever that is possible. To look round at the large, empty landscape, and to watch the birds flying freely about in the air, you would say, many people have said, in the country, this is the place to be free in. That is what Rousseau said, and the more savage the landscape became, the more free it seemed to him. He forgot, of course, that his artificial freedom was contingent on the civilization that he had momentarily left. Had he really been translated into the wild past, behind village life, all the villagers would have become cavemen, or wolves and bears, and he would be far too busy circumventing their destructive intentions to be able to indulge in freedom. The more, however, you examine the life of the primitive tribe, the more it is seen to reproduce the tyrannous socialization of village life, and the more you know of village life, in spite of the moss-grown thatched cottages, and the roses round the door, the more you recognize in it the signs of the most suffocating oppression of all, that of a small congery of highly standardized human beings, manufacturing daily public opinion like a lethal gas. And you know that the strongest, that is, by nature the freest, suffer most. Renan describes this unequal partage when he writes, "One catches the spirit of the multitude as one catches a fever. The exhausted systems will go safe through the greatest ills, owing to the debility of their constitution, just the same as enfeebled people resist a poisonous atmosphere better than more robust ones, from having already accustomed themselves to a partial respiration." The multitude referred to is not necessarily a vast gathering in a city square, it is any collection of people, and a fair-sized village provides all the necessary elements for such an infection. We can now turn once more to a few of the most significant details of Proudhon's adverse analysis of the contrat social of Rousseau, with a better chance of understanding the principles involved.